Merci. We can now switch to your questions. I will start with Jurek. Give me a second, Jurek. Donne-moi un second. Vas-y.
Voilà, Jurek Kushkevich du journal Soir. Je suis ici. Bonsoir, Monsieur Barnier.
Good evening, Mr. Barnier. I'd like to ask about the negotiation on the future relationship. Two questions. You've said just now that you will continue to work. Do you mean that you yourself are going to negotiate this future relationship, which isn't the withdrawal agreement anymore, but it's the next step? I infer that you will continue to lead these negotiations, and have a more specific question about these negotiations and the objective. The time is less than 2 years, up to the end of the transition period. You haven't said, unless I'm mistaken, how long the transition period could last for in addition. So, are you hopeful that the agreement can be concluded soon enough, or do you think that this withdrawal agreement and the outline we have today is sufficient basis for us to feel that that agreement can be negotiated much more quickly than other trade agreements in the past?
Vous apportez en fait.
Your last sentence provides part of the answer. In fact, I said that these were exceptional, extraordinary negotiations with a country to which we're very close. This is, after all, an ecosystem, the single market, which we've built up with the United Kingdom over the last 41 years. So we haven't a very distant starting point. Agreements will constitute the future partnership with the United Kingdom. I don't think that these agreements will need as much time as we needed for other trade agreements with countries which were much further away in regulatory terms, in terms of standards, and sometimes also geographically. Secondly, you're right to recall the following point. The withdrawal agreement is perhaps a basis as regards the backstop, but there is the political declaration, which will be short but very precise, as the European leaders, as the European Parliament want. You have the outline of that declaration in this annotated plan. It's a document which is by no means artificial. It's the result of precise benchmarking we've carried out for months now. So I have my mandate, which flows from the March guidelines of the European Council. This is ambitious, and there's also the white paper resulting from the Chequers meeting, a useful document. On the basis of these two documents, we've carried out this benchmarking, and we have found areas of convergence which I outlined in telegram style earlier. So, negotiating directives will be drawn up. I imagine that all the relevant Commission DGs will be involved. There'll be various groups. There'll be coordination. That's why I think that it is feasible to construct the essentials of this future partnership within this short transition period, because we've got the basis. And my final reply is this. There's only one point which isn't fleshed out in my document here. That is the time which it may take for the transition period to be extended by common agreement. So this is an option. There could be an extended transition period if that is agreed, but we haven't fleshed it out. It will be the next few weeks.
Thank you very much.
Use the mic, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barnier, could you tell us, please, what contingency planning or plans you might have up your sleeve if the UK Parliament does not approve this deal. So you have a draft deal now between the negotiators and the two sides, but what happens if the UK Parliament votes it down? And if I may also, it says in the EU-UK joint reports that future UK-EU relationship will be built on the single customs territory provided for in the withdrawal agreement. Does this mean that the UK will stay inside some kind of customs union with the EU in the future? Thank you.
What is written in this draft common declaration, this annotated plan, is the subject of an agreement. You've often heard me say here that I do, of course, along with my team, follow the political discussions in the United Kingdom. My door has always been open to politicians who wish to express their views, who wish to listen to our views. I think that that is only what is to be expected. The British discussion is very stimulating, but I won't make any comments. Mrs. May said this is the best possible agreement in the current circumstances. Along with the United Kingdom, we've worked on the backstop scenario, which we need in order to avoid there ever being a hard border on the island of Ireland. So there are no tariffs. There'll be no tariffs, no quotas on goods. And indeed, it is legitimate for that proposal to be flanked by a level playing field. That's a voluntary, deliberate agreement between two partners who respect each other. This agreement offers a basis for future negotiations, and that is in our common interest.
Okay, let's move on. I had then James. Yeah, you could. Sorry. Wait till the mic comes, please.
Okay, thank you. Monsieur Barnier, if I could ask you as politely as possible, could you respond to this point in English so that it's completely understood back in the UK? Is this now a take-it-or-leave-it deal for the UK Parliament? Is there any possibility of coming back for further negotiation if it's rejected?
The two negotiators, the two negotiating teams have taken their responsibility. The British government has taken today, this evening, its responsibility. And now everybody on both sides have to take their responsibility.
Okay, let's move on. Let's have a continental.
Merci, Monsieur Barnier. C'est la télévision suisse Thomas Millierina.
Swiss television. So, there will be the Court of Justice involved, etc. We're talking about customs arrangements. Would it be a third country? Would it be a third country from the 29th of March onwards, or from the end of the transition period?
Enfin,
The United Kingdom voted democratically in a sovereign fashion and decided to leave the European Union. That proves that it's possible. And that will be the case. The answer is yes. On the 29th of March, well, it depends whether we use summertime or British time. Anyway, on the 29th of March, the UK will become a third country. And if you read this carefully, if you read this document carefully, you will see the conditions set out, the conditions under which we're organising the orderly withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union. And at the same time, there are many third countries with which we and they wish to have closer relations. I'm not going to come back to our well-known staircase, but there are third countries in the European Economic Area which are members, full members of the single market. And there are governance relations, and the Court of Justice is not excluded from these governance relations these countries have with us. So, yes, the UK will be a third country. However, and this is a deep conviction of mine, because I have immense respect for the United Kingdom. And that's final. That we shall remain neighbours, friends, allies and partners. So the whole point of this declaration, which I've outlined, is this. The heads of state and government, ministers and ambassadors and the European Parliament in the UK have well worked on this. This sets out the ways and means of establishing this future partnership which is in our mutual interest. We've neglected the French press. I'll take a French question now.
Merci pour la...
Thank you. Two brief questions. First, the 27 have been amazingly united, considering all the divisions in the European Union in other areas. Why have they been so united? What is the reason? And what is your personal feeling? Pride, satisfaction, tiredness?
Vous avez pu...
You will have observed this unity. I am at the heart of these negotiations. The unity is genuine, it is robust, and it's by no means artificial, and it hasn't come down from heaven. I've had all sorts of contacts with the head of state and government, with the European Parliament, and many other players. And throughout these contacts, in 2016 and in 2017, I felt that people took what was happening very seriously. The Brexit vote was a thunderclap. And there was a new attitude on the other side of the Atlantic. The American administration's relationship with the EU changed. And just think also of stability or instability. There's a long list of terrorist attacks which hit so many European cities in particular. And there's instability all around the Mediterranean, in the Middle East as well. Now, I could add the exacerbation of natural disasters which aren't all natural. There are all sorts of consequences of climate change. This is what we've observed recently, and so people are taking the situation very seriously. They are willing to shoulder their responsibilities, and this is what I've observed among European politicians. And that is the spirit in which they took note of Brexit in June 2016. In a few days later, in their first guidelines, they expressed a composition. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't there yet at the time. I came here to nurture this unity. First of all, with the support of President Juncker, I proposed an unconventional method, that of total transparency. So immediate communication of the negotiation documents, being available to talk to you and European politicians. And as a result, my team goes to Coreper to the ambassadors, to the ministers, the European Council. Mr. Tusk invites me. So in real time, my team and I, almost every day, report on the state of negotiations, and that produces trust, and it enhances unity. In other words, there's more and more collective ownership, and we wanted people to take account of everything that's at stake. There's so much at stake. And the same transparency applies to the European Parliament, the Brexit Steering Group, and there's the President's Conference in Strasbourg as well. So I meet ministers, the national parliaments, the trade unions, the employers in each country. There won't be any national ratification at this stage, but, ladies and gentlemen, many elements of future relationship, whether the legal nature of the agreements we need or other aspects, will be mixed agreements. They will require national ratification, unanimous ratification by 27 national parliaments and perhaps certain regional parliaments too. So we're going to abide by that method because it's the key to trust and unity. And personally, I hope that this unity which we've constructed in these negative negotiations can be used as a basis so as to work on a positive agenda, the positive agenda which the European Union needs. So how do I feel today? Well, not self-satisfaction. I don't feel smug for reasons which have to do with my regret about Brexit. There's no value added there. But we've done a lot of work. We've worked well. That's why I wish to thank the great team which I've led and other teams too. I feel that this is a very important step. It's fundamental. It's a kind of prerequisite to have an agreement on an orderly withdrawal. Because what, to me, is much more important is the future relationship with the UK. Over and above this separation, over and above that decision taken by the UK, we want to negotiate with this great country. Of course we're tired. I hope that I'm disguising it well. But we still have the energy and the determination which this unity and trust lend us. Thank you.
It's late, you have to file your stories. Jim, here on the right.
Hello. Jim Brunston from the Financial Times. Hi. In the draft withdrawal agreement, there's now this rendezvous for July 2020 to take what are actually some very crucial decisions on Ireland and how to prevent a hard border in Ireland. Are you not worried that by setting this kind of rendezvous date in mid-2020, you're not in fact, what you are in fact doing is postponing some of the hard choices that need to be made, postponing some of the difficult negotiations that might need to be had, rather than solving these issues now? Thank you.
Jim.
Now and for a while, if this draft international agreement, this draft treaty is finalised and ratified, then we'll all shoulder our responsibilities. All the different players will play their role. The Parliament, the UK Parliament, and on our side, there'll be a transition period. Now, during that period, the current situation stays. It's preserved, and in particular in Ireland, which gives us time. That's the point. It's a short time, as someone said, but there's time to work on the future relationship. And our interest is not to remain in a transition period. Our interest, our common interest, is as soon as possible, to have a real sustainable partnership on all those subjects I mentioned earlier on. That's the point. We're not pushing anything back. We're not deferring anything. We're taking things in order, in the right order, an orderly withdrawal, and we're practically there, I would say, and then you outline the framework of a future relationship. That's the right order in which to do things. No one's pushing things back, things that should have been dealt with straight away. We're simply doing things in the right order. And if there were to be difficulties agreeing on this future relationship, then there are two possibilities. Limited extension in time to give ourselves more time, the transition, and then this new operational backstop, which takes account of our common requirements, the Good Friday Agreement, our requirement on the integrity of the single market, and the requirements that the UK have, which we respect, to preserve their territorial integrity. So I do really think that we've taken our responsibilities, we've dealt with now what had to be dealt with now in a very specific and precise way. You may be rather surprised about how precise and dense this text is, because it's an international agreement which has to provide legal certainty to everyone. And then, very quickly, we engage and seek solutions for the future partnership. Tomorrow, as I said, there's going to be a technical briefing. My team, Sabine, Stephanie, will be here, and other members of the team. So you'll have time to sleep on this, read it in the detail, and you'll have all the right questions tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock for the technical briefing.
Champagne yet? No. Is this water? Champagne.